welcome to Amy Beth Presents. I'm your host, Amy Beth. And today, well, the weather is supposed to be a little more favorable. So far, it's holding up. We're at the historical Old Mountain Field Road Park in Wakefield, Rhode Island. And it's a very special reason why I'm here today. This is such a beautiful park. There's so much history that goes back at least 40 years to the beginning of it. And people had cookouts here and gatherings, events. There's tennis courts here. And famous baseball field. And as much as I'd like to go into the history of the park, what I'm going to talk about today is included in the history of the park. And before I do that, I also like to mention the trees. There's just so many trees. And I have an affinity with these trees. And it didn't just happen by coincidence. It feels like it was kind of like part of my life, that this was going to happen. And I'm glad that it's happening today. Actually, it was supposed to happen yesterday. Because yesterday on August 15th, as some of my viewers recall, Tony Paravano, who was my late husband, passed away 4 years ago, August 15th, 2019. And who's behind the camera right now? I give him a shout out, Peter, our son Peter. And Tony would be extremely proud of him, the way he's kind of helping his legacy to go on and keep the show going on too. And also I have to give a shout out my friend Nancy, who showed up, surprised me today. And that alone is such, not only a surprise, but an incredible blessing to me tonight, in more ways than one. So the reason I'm here is, behind me is this tall maple tree. It's 4 years. I wanted to bring some bright sunshine on it today, but I can't complain. It's partly cloudy, not too bad. But this tree 4 years ago was just a tiny sapling, and when it was planted, it had this orange cage around it, and the ropes to secure it in place. I had this tree planted for Tony in his honor. And here it says, this tree is planted in loving memory of Ronaldo Tony Paravano, who was always on my mind and forever in my heart. And so I had the tree planted 4 years ago. And I'm very so grateful that the folks with the Friends of the Saugatucket River had helped out, and I guess in the Parks Department, they had planted it. And that year, Pete and I also helped out with the river cleanup project and also with the parks cleanup. This photo was taken near the ball field, and this was 2015, just a few years before Tony passed away. What makes this photo extra special, it was on the 4th of July. And every 4th of July is a huge event that happens here at Old Mountain Field Road. And Tony and I were included in it Well, mostly because we covered it with, my cable show, Amy Beth Presents, and at the time, he videotaped it on VHS, and the event happened in the back of the ball field there, and there's live music and bands, and families had blankets on the ground and picnic stuff, and concessions, and entertainment, including live band, and we were so happy to be part of this. I think for maybe 3 or 4 years we've done this, which makes it dual purpose because Tony and I were married on the 4th of July, but we were married in 1979, and we didn't even know about Old Mountain Field Road Park at the time. And when we arrived here, I had no indication that I would be sharing with you today not only the planting of the tree, but the memories of Tony and I. And there's even more memories here about a tree that was special for Tony that I want to tell you about it as well today. I think in the earlier times, the tree was just a seedling, a baby tree at the time. And I was so excited and wanted to share that with the world and have people come here, but the tree wasn't tall enough yet. And there it is. And I'm thinking that hopefully in the future we can do more with the tree as, outreach. Anyone out there on behalf of the park and other people, we can have a little mini celebration, picnic. Well, I'm thinking the summer because that's when it happened, but there's no reason why it can't be done in the fall and the winter too. And that would be something interesting. To pay a memorial tribute to Tony that way. I envisioned something bigger this time in the 4th year, but perhaps, the year isn't over yet, and there's still more that we can do. And I'm looking forward to that as an outreach to the community in Wakefield too, that also remember Tony. And the tree. And I'd like to talk more about that on the tree. So the significance of I thought I heard a motorcycle, or it's not a motorcycle. Well, Tony used to be a biker too. But getting back to the trees, Old Mountain Field Road Park, trees. And I almost got to mention that the tree that I've had planted for Tony replaced an old tree. And that old tree was kind of symbolic when I think of it in a way, because the old tree was really strong and sturdy like Tony used to be. And the baby tree that has been planted there now, the maple is gaining its strength and getting bigger. And again, it's symbolic of the strength and vitality and the new tree and new life. And it's a good thing for the environment, and it's a good thing for the, for the air and for the trees. Help us. Carbon dioxide is a good thing with the trees. And they're also good, for the, I wouldn't say the wildlife, but for the birds. And that they can have a place to have a haven, especially as such a nice place to be selected, and the upkeep too of the park itself with the green. And Tony used to do lawn care, so he would enjoy seeing that someone's keeping up the lawn care, and even around the tree he would say, don't forget to trim the grass there around there, That would be something that he would definitely say. Again, talking about trees now. This tree. This tree has a special magic of its own. I think the year before, Tony and I had come here on the 4th of July. He mentioned the trees, and he liked the trees asserting this because, again, he liked nature, and he did a lawn care, and he did shrubs and trees, so, and he used to hug trees. And I'm thinking that when we came back here, again, for the last photo in 2015, he remembered the area, the trees. And after the event, the 4th of July, as you were leaving, there were a lot of people there. It was crowded. And the way that we came in from the park, like, we kind of got lucky getting the parking place that we did at the time. There was no place to park, but we did find a spot near the entrance on that side. So we tried to walk down the driveway to get there, and we weren't able to, so we came to the park instead, and he said, even though it was crowded, he said, I like these trees. I said, and there's a lot of trees here. I kept saying it. I said, but there's a lot of people, we're trying to get back. He said, but wait. He walked over. We went, because there was a spot here we were able to get through. He walked over to this tree and said, wait. I didn't have a picture to take at the time. He said, I especially like this tree. I said, why? He said, it's a huggy tree. We called it a huggy tree. And if you look, oh, wait a minute. It's a huggy. He said, it's a hugging tree. Hugging. And I went, oh. And then we both hugged here. And he liked it, the tree. And I looked and it's got like an image on it or something. So this tree is, I mean, this tree has been, I can't guess how many years this tree is going to be, at least 50 years. So, my big tree that I had planted for Tony replaced an older tree that was nearby. But little known to me at the time, and Tony, God rest his soul, that I would have a tree planted nearby, but I did not select the location of the tree. The Parks Department did. And then I found out after, when they had planted the tree, I looked across, I went, oh my goodness, it was just meant to be about that tree in more ways than one. And so Tony had an affinity for this tree. And when they had planted that tree to replace the old one that was there, I just knew that there's a connection there at the park. And the connection, it might have begun on the 4th of July. Who knows? Because we, you know, Tony and I, we came out often, not just for the park. I also entertained on Main Street, and in mime, you know, Amy the Mime. Amy the Mime's incognito right now. And so Tony would follow me around with the camera up down Main Street, and we'd come to all the events. And I guess that we did want to come back here and do more at the park, but we were so busy there in Maine that it was almost impossible. But we did have ideas to come back here and perhaps have that picnic that we're still looking forward to. And which brings me around to, I admire the fact that Wakefield and South Kingston does a lot, not only for the historical aspect of the community, but for the environment. And, you know, all my coming from generation of ecology and that sort of thing. I feel like I have to get my 2 cents in. But besides that, I actually have written a poem about how I feel about not just this park, but what everyone can do or should be doing in their communities all over to keep, peace alive so we can breathe better and live better and enjoy life a lot better. Because without them, it would be, wouldn't be healthy in more ways than one. But, so I written this poem called Smokeless Sky. So, birds in flight, clouds that are puffy and white, sturdy, tall oak trees, well, I guess maple too now. Yeah, there's maple tree too, that reach way up high in a smokeless sky. Today seems like a dark and dismal, somewhat rainy day, with too many cars in the way. Well, the reason I say that is because, the cars, the carbon emissions are not good for the environment as well. And for all the stuff you've been seeing in the news lately too about the fires and stuff, are not healthy. It's just making more bad stuff in the air. It doesn't help the ozone, I believe. Fresh air and sunshine is what we need to push all that pollution away. The rivers and the streams and the forest creatures, they need to run free. We must respect Mother Nature and creation, that you and me. Way up there, above it all, an eagle soars. And that eagle soars, and it can freely do that. When autumn leaves begin to fall on the ground, as I walk by, here again, I hope to see a smokeless sky. So you know what? Don't hesitate. Make a change if you can about the pollution and the waste and the stuff that's left unattended in your town, on the ground. Even at the beach I see it, folks, they leave stuff. It's just a beautiful place. Nature, to mistreat it that way isn't something that's good for anybody. Anyway. There's things that are hidden that can't be found. But I'm not talking about treasures. Stuff like junk. Junkyards are filled with glass, metal, and things that rust and decay. We can't recycle those stuff. Okay, there are people that do recycle stuff that's recyclable, but I'm talking about stuff that isn't. And it's a civic duty to do something about this, to care about our planet. There's only one planet. We have Mother Earth, and we have to do something about it. The sun needs to shine. She's our only true friend. She keeps us warm. Don't stay in, keep it warm too long. You can get a sunburn, but that's not the point. It's just that there is only one sun. I talk about solar energy, but hopefully the sun can continue to shine and not shine no more, which would be devastating for everyone. Because we don't have an extra sun. So we all depend on her. So, for this present world and for every generation and every nation on the earth, we should comply, because I feel that this is the reason and hopefully the solution to live under one smokeless sky. This has been such an incredible Memorial Day tribute for Tony. It all began at Old Mountain Field Road Park, and it actually led us here to Main Street. And the reason that I'm on Main Street, 333 Main Street, is this is where Tony passed away. And this bench has a special significance today. And the significance of the bench is what I'm going to share with you today. That's why I'm here. First off, the event that Tony and I were here 4 years ago was Wakefield, Kingston Endless Summer Festival, and I performed in mine as I continue to do here on Main Street. I love the area, I love the community, I love the people that are here. So did Tony. We spent a lot of time here at the festival, met a lot of people and the businesses and outreach and anybody in the community. And also special shout out to my friends with the Saugatuck River again, with the Neighborhood Guild. They're such a blessing and so helpful with everything. And for me to be here today on Main Street, Wakefield, to talk about the events, I won't talk about them specifically, but in retrospect of the fact that that day especially, on August 15th, Tony and I, when we arrived here, around 5 o'clock, and he walked here and he was helping me carry the balloon bags, and he was helping me put that stuff together, And when we arrived, I arrived on that spot there where the free downtown parking spot is. I would usually stand right there, and he would sit next to me on the folding chair, picnic folding chair, and then he got up and decided to take a walk by here. At that time, this building, it's now Duck Press. At that time was Mary Murphy's. And we used to frequent Mary Murphy's. They had some real cool, good food, good drinks. Well, I'm sure Duck Press does as well, but we just remember Mary Murphy's when we were here at that time. In fact, we were going to have fish and chips there later on that day, but it never came to pass. Well, on August 15th, he was here, and then he decided to take a walk here along the sidewalk. And what happened is that he was sitting on this bench, and the next thing we found out that he passed away. There's a story in Narragansett Times about the details called Simply Speechless, but I came here mostly today for the 4th year memorial tribute to Tony. And I had written this poem, actually I'd written this poem the year when he passed away, but this is the first time I had the opportunity to read the poem and share it with my viewers on Amy Beth Presents. So I'll do that. I'd like to read that for you now. Got some flowers for the crew. The poem is called Forevermore. That old man that was sitting on the park bench. I know him. I will stand and wait for you, as I did that day. How could one understand what you were going through? Only words can hardly express such loneliness and an empty feeling that I had inside. I bowed my head as in solemn prayer. And I just looked up to an open sky. And now I know that you are watching me on the other side. I just kind of feel that today. Old man sitting on the park bench. Why, I call him an old man. I say it in a reverent way. He was pretty good looking for an old man. And to think he would have been 92 on August 18th. That old man sitting on the park bench always asked for wisdom, but he was more wiser than he realized it up. He was younger and younger in years. How could one understand this? That day I just held back the tears. I stood and I waited for him. And he walked the walk. And he said he'd be right back. But he didn't. He just reclined and he resigned on that bench. How could I know that you would never come back to me? You had gone and you left me to eternity. And I remember a small white feather floated up to the sky, kind of a symbolic way of letting me know that he passed over. Old man sitting on the park bench. Someone very special, especially to me. I shared my life with him for almost 50 years. Through all of our trials and tribulations, our sorrows, joys, and celebrations with our family and friends and strangers, complete strangers too. And now he's more than a memory. His spirit is alive. I know, and I just know that he's watching me on the other side. He just decided he had taken life's final ride. But that's the reason why forever love will never die. I thank you for this opportunity to share this today. And you enjoy it. And I'll leave the flower here. You have been watching Amy Beth Presents. It is a very special show today to share with my fans, friends, viewers, and for those that haven't, or maybe will watch it, that you be blessed by this, because I certainly feel that I am today. And again, a special shout out to my son Peter that's behind the camera, standing in the very spot where I last seen Tony, and my friend Nancy, who did the photo shoot today, and hopefully that'll come out nice. We share that online so that everyone can see it. And these flowers have a special significance. Well, blue, Tony's color, he had blue eyes, you know, aquamarine, and the butterflies. So I thank you again. You have been watching Amy Beth Presents.